Hey y'all, it's Nomadic Shaman here. Thank you for visiting my page. Um, Today's video is just going to be a continuation of updates of what's transpired, what I've observed, what I've witnessed, what I have experienced as it relates to gang stalking. Me doing this video, I do it for a multitude of reasons. But one of which that I do mention often is always to educate, inform, and empower. Okay? You don't know until you know, and when you do know, you are in a better position to address it and or to move accordingly. Okay? And so I hope that my experience, what I've gone through, and the information I share from it will help others. Okay? So with that, one thing I did want to mention, just as a follow-up for my previous video, one interesting thing as far as the whole twin flame dynamic, one thing I will share though, is that for me, when my twin flame transitioned from the earth plane, I felt it. But it's like I felt it, but I didn't know. In other words, when he passed away, I didn't know that he had passed away, but I remember that day I was crying all day. And I just figured that it would have to do with me feeling sentimental about something. But knowing what I know now and reflecting back on it, I was spiritually mourning my twin flame who had transitioned that day. Okay, so that's very interesting. That's one thing that I've learned. Especially if you experience the twin flame dynamic on the earthly plane. Okay, not everybody does or have one that's in the same timeline and even lifetime, in this current lifetime. But I was fortunate to have that experience. So yeah, that's interesting. The next part is, let me start off by saying this is for edutainment purposes. So please use your own discernment. So with that, let me continue. So where I left off was, how are these people getting paid? How are people in their neighborhood getting paid? Which I got a really good download of how they corral people for their smear campaign and how that works. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, but I'll share that in another video. This video, how are they getting paid? How are some of these getting paid? This is what Spirit had shared with me. Some of which, food, drugs, services, some get daycare, rent discount, a stipend, groceries, electronic devices. I mentioned daycare, pets, labor, so workforce, having people come in and do work for you, okay? By way of bank transfers to their app, things that they need, anything that they need in cash, okay? Now for the foot soldiers, on the ground work, and when I say on the ground work, what that can look like is people following you around, or neighbors listening, ear hustling, and then reporting. These people don't get paid much at all. And yet they're in a position to negotiate for way more than what they get paid for, but they don't know any better. So they take what they can. But these are some of the things that they get paid. And the reason why they take what they can is because the majority of them are in lack mentality. And that's purposeful. These people who are in lack mentality are sought out because they're in a more desperate position to be able to accept anything, even if that's like petty cash, to be able to execute what needs to be executed. Okay. So that's one thing I learned. Then we have the noise campaign. Noise campaign, I've explained that before, what that looks like. It could be cars revving their engine, people being loud for no damn reason, stomping, jumping, just being extra, okay? Extraordinary, okay? I did explain, what was it, my last video, where I said that there was a helicopter. There are actually many helicopters that fly over my apartment building. And initially, I didn't really bat an eye. Why? Is because I live relatively close to the DC area. So not too far from the White House. And given its current climate, with everything that's going on, it's almost expected to hear, or not so much expected, but I'm not surprised by the amount of traffic, air traffic that I hear. And I'm not talking about airplanes, I'm talking about helicopters. And I mentioned before, they could be military, it could be police department, it could be medical, I mean, CIA, FBI, you name it. And it could be any one of those things or even all those things on a given day. And it's not necessarily out of the ordinary of why one would hear it, or more specifically, why I would hear it. But when it starts to happen multiple times within an hour and or 2 hour time period, one takes notice. Or shall I say, I take notice. I pay attention to patterns in those things, right? But the reason why I'm saying that is as a follow-up. You know, the last that I had explained was, I believe the date I gave was February 18th. It was at nighttime. It could have been between 9 and 10. I gave the time in the previous video where there was a helicopter that flew around, but the difference is shortly after some type of chemical or substance was released. And I knew that because I smelt it, number one. Even if it's odorless, I'm heightened sensitivity, okay? So even it may be odorless to many, I smelt it. And then two, I felt the effects of it. Okay. And Spirit has shared with me that that was the Maryland Police Department. More specifically, it was a connection to Diana. Okay, so Diana knows two people who were in the helicopter. The person who was driving it or flying it, and then another person. Okay, two of which knew of what they were doing when they were doing it and had a connection to Diana. Okay. Now, so that's significant. That needs to be looked into. One other thing, as when I noticed that my trash was being picked out and gone through, y'all, it's just something altogether different when someone has to do protective rituals over their trash, because you never know. It may be this trash bag lucky day when somebody's sorting through and then picking certain pieces to do spell work on. Okay, so that's like a day in the life. Okay, as far as like spiritual warfare and having to take a protective stance as it relates to covens, witches, warlocks, wizards, those specifically who practice baneful magic, okay, and or occultists. They go through your girl's trash all the time. They've gotten a pretty good system down. I'll tell you that much. If I wasn't psychic, I wouldn't have been able to pick that shit up. I'll tell you that. But anyways, so then continue on, moving on. One thing I did leave off was, in connection to my last video, was Eddie, the one that I spoke about, who transitioned, and his It was a murder. It was not suicide. He had changed his will in or trust. Okay. And he told me, he actually showed me his will. Okay. He showed it to me. And in the spirit. But I can tell you what was originally on there. Okay. Physically. But he showed me in the spirit that there were 3 women that he had put down as beneficiaries. Beneficiaries. Okay. One of which was his mom. There was another woman who he was romantically involved with. And then there was me. I didn't know this until he passed away. And if we just rest here for a second, I had predicted his death in 2020 when I met him. I told him what was going to happen. I told him how it was going to happen. Not specifically how, but I told him who centered around him was going to be responsible if he continued to go down the same path that he did. He thought I was crazy. Okay. And come to find out later, he said that because my psychic abilities scared the fuck out of him because of how accurate I was. And it wasn't until he transitioned did he tell me that I was right, and he apologized. But that's neither here nor there. So anyways, I wanted to explain that or share that because that in part is what really was the driving force and initiated my whole gang stalking. Okay. I mean, if people were to find out that they were involved in all collectively attacking someone based on lies and smear campaigns, where the root of the issue was someone was jealous and envious. Okay. But anyhow, so, and I'm saying that because shit, that's what it is. That's what it was. Just because some man she felt a certain type of way about, felt a certain type of way about me. That's what it boils down to. So imagine the karma that these people are going to face over a woman who was jealous and told mad lies. But anyways, moving on. So, forensic accountant. A forensic accountant needs to comb through a lot of the things that I mentioned in my readings. Okay. Also, needs to look into the people who live here, more specifically my neighbors. Who's on the lease? Who's on the lease in relation to who's actually living here? And that needs to be looked at with a magnifying glass, because Spirit is telling me there's a connection as it relates to gang stalking. The people who are paying, meaning paying these neighbors in order to act out different tasks, okay? Centered around me, centered around gang stalking, okay? That's number, fuck it, on what number it is. Let me move on, okay? And so Spirit said forensic accountant comb through paying rent from 2021 to present day, okay? Now, one thing I mentioned beforehand is I'm going to be moving at the end of the month from where I'm at now. Some of the things that I've noticed in February was people strategically parked, okay? Strategically parked and hiding their license plate from view, more specifically my view from the window when I look out through the window out on the street. So they're parked in a specific way where their license plate is hidden. Now you have to figure, how does one know how to position their car in such a way where their license plate is covered from my vantage point from looking through the window. Things that make you go, okay. Now, let's see. Okay. As far as my social media pages, I'm still being shadow banned. That's nothing new. Okay. Spirit is just telling me patience. So patience is what I shall be, right? One thing you want to take note of is when I leave by the end of this month, when I leave by the end of this month, pay close attention to who leaves shortly after me, or at least within a 6-month span, because that's telling, okay? This is what Spirit has told me. There's folks or individuals, especially behind me, where they had workers working on landscape all the way through 8:15 at night, to the point where they had to put night goggles on in order to see the work that they were doing at 8:15 p.m. I don't know about you all, but I know for me, the only time that I've seen that is when I've seen city workers work on major infrastructure such as highways, okay? And they do that because there's limited traffic. It pays more, it costs more, but they do it to avoid the amount of traffic, especially if it's a busy highway, right? So when I see employees or workers, construction workers, working on somebody's landscape after 8 p.m., it's just things that make you go, because normally they usually get up at 5, 6, 7, and they're back to their families by 4 p.m. Okay, that's been my experience. Okay, that's what I've observed. So I thought that was weird. That stuck out. Let me see. And that took place on February 24th and February 25th, right outside my apartment in the back, okay? Working on landscape until 8:15 p.m. Don't make no damn sense. People got to turn the light on. Don't make no damn sense. Anyways, I'm getting a brother or an uncle who's connected to this gang stalking campaign, who either works at a bank or used to work at a bank. Okay, they work there so that they have the end to process checks. More specifically, I'm getting payout checks. It could be life insurance payout checks, Social Security, disability payout checks. It could be gang stalking payout checks. It could be trust payout checks. But that's what I got. They have an inside person. This inside person also happens to be a brother and or an uncle to, who is it? A brother and uncle specifically to Diana. This is what I'm hearing, okay? And I'm also hearing Wells Fargo Bank. Spirit gave me the dates. So March 5th was an important date where Diana had to pay a fee. Okay, these spirits be telling me anything and everything, stuff I don't even need to know, but I'm going to share regardless. March 5th was a due date by the courts for her to pay what exactly? The money that was owed to me by way of a trust. Okay, the money that she stole that wasn't designated to her. And she had until, I believe, March 5th to pay it. She had to report to court March 12th, as Spirit told me. I know my last video, I said between March 10th and March 12th. I got clarification. March 12th was the court date. She had to appear in court regarding this, okay? I mentioned before, there are 8 states that held bank accounts with my name that was not created by me. Identity fraud. Okay. When it comes to my business, I do not have a partnership. I'm a one-woman business, okay, as it relates to my business. I do have a 9-to-5, but I also have my business. It's only me, okay? The next thing, they like to play with your girls' Amazon packages. That's nothing new. Spirit did show me how these police officers, I guess it's a new thing, or maybe it's not a new thing. They were showing me how they use cameras, but they're thermal, so they gauge it by body heat. I don't know why Spirit shared that with me, but informed me of that. Maybe for me to be aware of when I hear helicopters and it happens to be a police officer, and specifically around my apartment building and connected and tied to me, just to be mindful that they have and or will use thermal cameras, okay? Specifically as it relates to me, okay? Because anytime anybody taps into my energy, my spiritual team tells me, okay? So, what else? I got deepfake, took photos in an attempt to frame me using AI. Okay, also got judges corrupted. We have corrupted judges up in here. I've already shared about corrupted police officers. I got corrupted judges were involved in ensuring the cases would be dismissed, more specifically in 2024 and 2025 as it relates to trust money payouts, designating who it's going to, and a faulty POA. Okay, apparently somebody has a power of attorney over me. Okay, and what was being disclosed was either I had physical disabilities or mental health issues that prevented me from being able to take care of oneself. I work a 9-to-5. I have my own business. I do just fine. Okay. Now, let's see. Spirit also shared there are individuals who are squatting. This is maybe significant. Not maybe, it is. Squatting and using a false lease and leaving the property damaged. This is significant. Also throwing people's mail from one area to a completely different area. That is significant. I asked Spirit, why is that significant? And they told me that there were mail that was intended to be delivered to me, but it was intercepted and then thrown somewhere else to ensure that I don't receive it. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.